Playing his beautiful music for a blind lady and a boy who was always there, he never imagined that this act could change their lives forever. In the vibrant and unceasing metropolis of New York City, the underground corridors of the subway served as both refuge and stage for John Miller, a 32-year-old street musician whose life had been marked by a series of dramatic turns. Armed with an eclectic collection of instruments, a worn guitar from countless performances, a keyboard whose keys reflected the glimmer of hope, and a harmonica carrying the melancholic sound of his darkest days, John transformed every corner of this subterranean world into an impromptu concert hall. The subway platforms, soaked in the constant hum of hurried footsteps and fleeting conversations, became the backdrop against which he unfolded his talent. With agile fingers, he caressed the strings of his guitar, coaxing out melodies that intertwined with the urban noise. His keyboard, propped against a graffiti-laden wall, was an extension of his soul. Each key press not only sounded a note, but also echoed the depths of his personal story. John's music was a rich tapestry of emotions, woven with threads of loss and resilience. There was a rawness to his style, a direct reflection of the challenges he had faced. Years ago, life seemed promising: loving parents, a home filled with laughter and security. However, everything crumbled on one fateful night. A car accident stole the pillars of his existence, his parents. The tragedy not only left him orphaned of guidance, but also plunged his life into a financial crisis that culminated in the loss of his home. Stripped of any safety net, John found in music not just an escape, but a necessary means of subsistence. Each day in the underground corridors was a battle against oblivion and despair. He played for anyone who would listen, and for many who didn't want to. But in every note, in every chord, John placed his fervent desire to rebuild his life, note by note, day after day. As he played, passers-by occasionally stopped, drawn by the purity of his art. Some hurried, others curious. They listened, sometimes for a moment, sometimes for an entire song. Coins fell into his guitar case, like silent applause, small acknowledgments of his struggle and his talent. It was amidst this melody of life and overcoming that John continued to weave his path through the city's shadows, hoping that each day in the subway would be another passage to a future where music was not just his survival, but also his redemption. As the daily tides of commuters ebbed and flowed through the bustling subway stations of New York City, two figures consistently pierced the anonymity of the crowd: Eleanor, an elderly blind woman, and Max, a young boy who was mute. These two unlikely companions were bonded not by blood but by a shared resonance with the soulful strains of John's music, which filled the subterranean corridors with an almost tangible energy. Eleanor, her world enveloped in perpetual darkness, experienced the city through its sounds. The vibrant tones of John's music served as her beacon, guiding her through the echoing tunnels that might otherwise seem a daunting maze of sounds and smells. Max, a boy whose youth was marked by a profound silence that no words could breach, found his voice in the silent language of gestures and the expressive movements of his body. He communicated his thoughts and needs with an eloquence that transcended spoken words, and his small hands were adept at leading Eleanor with a care and deliberation that belied his age. Every day, Max would meet Eleanor at the entrance of the subway station. With a touch that was both gentle and confident, he would take her hand and navigate through the bustling crowds. Their journey was a quiet ballet set against the cacophony of the city's heartbeat. Max, with his acute awareness of his surroundings, steered them through throngs of distracted commuters and around the occasional spill of coffee or a hastily discarded newspaper. The music, emanating from John's corner of the station, was their lodestar. As they approached, Eleanor's face would subtly soften, the corners of her mouth lifting in a serene smile as the melodies washed over her. The music enveloped her in warmth, a contrast to the cool, impersonal air of the subway. It was here, in these fleeting moments of connection, that Eleanor felt a vivid tapestry of life unfolding around her, a life she could not see but could feel through the vibrations of the air and the gentle pressure of Max's guiding hand. For Max, these excursions were not just routine walks through a subway. They were a mission. He took pride in his role as Eleanor's steadfast navigator, his steps sure and purposeful. Each successful journey to their musical haven deepened the bond between the boy and the woman, a bond formed in the absence of sight and sound, but forged in the heart of shared experiences. As they settled into their usual spot near John, the musician would often nod in their direction, acknowledging their presence with a subtle shift in the tempo or a slight crescendo in his tune. This unspoken dialogue between John and his audience punctuated the air, making the space around them thrum with a connection that transcended the ordinary. The daily encounters in the echoing halls of the subway station, underpinned by the rich tapestry of music and silent understandings, painted a picture of life's beautiful complexities. Here, in the underbelly of the bustling city, simple acts of companionship and the universal language of music created a sanctuary of joy and belonging. As John's session neared its end on one particular day, the gathered crowd was larger than usual, a testament to the power of his music and the small community it nurtured. As the notes lingered in the air, setting the stage for another day, the atmosphere was charged with an anticipation of the next performance, signaling the continuation of this daily ritual. On a morning that dawned like any other in the bustling heart of New York City, an extraordinary scene unfolded in the dimly lit corridors of the subway station, where the usually mundane routine transformed into a moment of profound connection and shared human experience. John Miller, positioned at his usual spot against the worn tiles, fingers dancing across the keys of his keyboard, tapped into a melody that seemed to slow the relentless pace of time itself. As John played, his music weaving through the air with a particularly soul-stirring resonance, the usual cacophony of the morning commute softened into a background hum. Commuters, often insulated in their private worlds, headphones in ears and eyes fixed on their devices, found themselves pausing, drawn by the haunting beauty of the tune. The melody, rich with emotional depth and imbued with John's own experiences of loss and resilience, resonated deeply, cutting through the anonymity of the crowd. Amidst this, Eleanor and Max stood as silent beacons of the unspoken bond they shared with John. Eleanor, with her sightless eyes closed, swayed gently to the rhythm of the music, her face alight with a serene smile that seemed to radiate warmth. Max, always attentive, stood beside her, his hand lightly resting on her arm, providing silent support and assurance. Their interaction, though wordless, spoke volumes about their deep connection to the music and to each other. The poignant scene captured the attention of the onlookers. Passers-by, moved by the sight and sound before them, slowed their hurried steps. Some paused to listen, allowing the melody to envelop them, while others were compelled to contribute to the makeshift stage John had created. Coins clinked softly as they were dropped into the open guitar case at John's feet, each contribution a tangible token of appreciation for the unexpected moment of beauty in their otherwise hectic lives. The air in the subway station felt charged with an energy that was rare and uplifting. The generosity of the commuters was palpable, each coin not just a piece of metal, but a symbol of communal support and recognition of John's artistry. It was as if the music had woven a temporary web that connected each individual in the vicinity, drawing them into a shared experience that highlighted the raw beauty of human connection and empathy. As the notes from John's keyboard continued to flow, more individuals gathered, drawn by the growing crowd and the clear emotion that the music evoked. The usual boundaries between strangers in the city seemed to dissolve, if only for the duration of the song. In that moment, the subway station transformed from a mere passageway to a place of communal gathering, where the stories and struggles of its daily travelers intersected and mingled through the medium of John's music. As the melody reached its crescendo, the atmosphere in the station was one of collective awe and silent gratitude. The shared experience lingered in the air, a reminder of the beauty that could arise unexpectedly, even in the most ordinary of places. As the last note faded, leaving a resonant silence that hung heavy in the air, the crowd began to disperse, carrying with them the memory of the music and the moment. The scene was set for the continuation of the day, the usual rhythm of the subway station resuming, yet subtly altered by the echoes of the morning's interlude. As the seasons shifted and the relentless rhythm of New York City continued unabated, the dynamic trio of John, Eleanor, and Max evolved into more than just regular fixtures in the bustling underground labyrinth of the subway. Over time, they had woven themselves into the very fabric of the place, transforming what was typically a transient space into a sanctuary of solace and connection. Their enduring presence in the subway corridors had come to represent something profound, symbols of unity and hope amid the urban chaos. Each day, as the city awoke to its symphony of honking cars, bustling pedestrians, and the distant wail of sirens, John would set up his makeshift stage in the corner of the subway station. With each setup, he laid out not just his instruments, but also an invitation to passers-by to pause and reflect. His music, rich with emotional undertones and brimming with the soul of the city, became a beacon drawing in the weary, the hurried, and the curious. Eleanor, with her gentle grace and unwavering smile, personified resilience and joy. Despite her blindness, she navigated the world with an optimism that was contagious. Her presence at John's performances was a vivid reminder to all who encountered her that joy could be found in the darkest of places, and that music was a powerful conduit for emotional expression and healing. Max, often underestimated because of his youth and muteness, demonstrated remarkable maturity and compassion. His daily guiding of Eleanor through the twists and turns of the subway was a silent testament to the power of nonverbal communication and the deep bonds that can form without words. His actions spoke loudly of loyalty and care, qualities that resonated deeply with the onlookers who witnessed their interactions. Together, the trio created a palpable sense of community. Regular commuters began to anticipate their presence, adjusting their routines to catch a few moments of John's music, or to exchange smiles with Eleanor, or to nod appreciatively at Max. Newcomers who stumbled upon this unique gathering would often pause longer than expected, drawn into the circle of warmth and acceptance that radiated from the group. Their spot in the subway station slowly turned into a communal haven, where people came not only to escape the frenetic pace of the city, but to find a moment of reprieve and connection. It was here, in the echoing halls beneath the streets, that the boundaries between strangers blurred, softened by the shared experience of music and the unspoken understanding that everyone was welcome. The impact of their presence was both subtle and significant. Without intending to, John, Eleanor, and Max had created a microcosm of society where empathy, compassion, and community were the currencies that mattered. Their daily gatherings, marked by music and mutual respect, offered a model of how diverse individuals could come together and find common ground. As the weeks turned into months, the reputation of this little community grew, drawing in more individuals from various walks of life. The subway station, once just a thoroughfare, had become a landmark in its own right, a place where people could find a brief respite from their troubles and be reminded of the beauty and resilience of the human spirit. This transformation was a testament to the enduring power of music and humanity, setting the stage for further growth and deeper connections. As the days lengthened into weeks and the weeks into months, the life of John Miller, once marked by uncertainty and hardship, began to manifest signs of significant improvement. The echoes of his music, which had filled the subway tunnels with melodies of hope and resilience, reverberated back into his own life, bringing with them waves of positive change. This transformation was not just a product of his unwavering dedication to his craft, but also the result of the unwavering support from the commuters who passed by him daily, and the profound bonds he had forged with Eleanor and Max. The consistent coins dropped into his guitar case grew more frequent and generous, as regular commuters and new listeners alike were moved by the soulful music and the heartwarming tableau of companionship that John, Eleanor, and Max presented each day. This financial support eased some of John's burdens, allowing him to worry less about his immediate needs and focus more on his future and his art. He was able to upgrade his musical instruments, investing in a better quality keyboard that allowed him to explore new sounds and compositions, further enriching his performances. The emotional and social uplift he experienced was equally transformative. John felt a renewed sense of purpose and belonging, a stark contrast to the isolation and despair that had once plagued him. The subway station had become more than a place of transit. It had transformed into a home of sorts, a community hub where he was not just recognized, but deeply valued and respected. Motivated by gratitude and a desire to give back to the community that had embraced him so warmly, John began to conceptualize a larger-scale event, a concert that would extend beyond his daily performances. He envisioned an event right there in the subway, a space that had witnessed his lowest and highest points, to celebrate the spirit of community and shared humanity that had supported him through his journey. Planning the concert became a new focus for John, providing him with not just a creative outlet, but also an opportunity to showcase the depth of his gratitude. He spent hours curating a set list that would reflect his musical journey, selecting pieces that had significant personal meaning and that he knew resonated well with his audience. He thought carefully about the logistics, considering the best time and place within the subway station to hold the concert to maximize accessibility and enjoyment for his audience. As he delved into the preparations, John's excitement was palpable. This concert was his way of threading together the individual notes of appreciation he felt towards each person who had paused to listen, dropped a coin, or offered a smile. It was his homage to the collective symphony of support that had lifted him from his darkest moments. As the plans for the concert began to solidify, the anticipation within the community grew. Word of the event spread beyond the regular morning commuters. Even those who had only heard of John's performances through others were drawn to the idea of experiencing the unique event. The subway station, a place typically marked by the transient footsteps of hurried city dwellers, was set to become the stage for an extraordinary celebration of music, resilience, and community connection. The concert John had meticulously planned and eagerly anticipated transformed the subway station from a mere transit point into a vibrant hub of human connection and artistic celebration. As the date of the concert approached, the buzz of excitement was palpable among the regular commuters and the wider community that had come to know about the event. Lanterns and soft lights were strung across the ceiling of the station, casting a warm glow that softened the usual harsh fluorescent lighting, creating an inviting and festive atmosphere. John's setup was more elaborate than usual. Beside his trusty keyboard and guitar, additional speakers were carefully positioned to optimize the sound, ensuring that every note and chord would be heard clearly. The space around his usual spot was cleared, allowing for more standing room, which quickly filled with an eager audience. People from all walks of life, who might normally rush through their daily routines barely acknowledging one another, now gathered together, united in their anticipation of the music. As John stepped into his improvised stage, the chatter and noise of the crowd hushed in expectant silence. He took a moment to look around, his heart swelling with a mixture of gratitude and awe at the sight of the diverse group that had assembled. With a deep breath, he began to play, his fingers moving with practiced ease and deep emotion across the keys and strings. The music that filled the air was a rich tapestry of John's journey, songs of struggle, songs of hope, and songs of joy. Each piece was chosen to reflect the path he had walked and the shared human experiences that resonate with anyone who has faced adversity. The melodies ranged from poignant and touching to uplifting and exuberant, mirroring the spectrum of emotions that life presents. As John played, the audience was visibly moved. Some closed their eyes, letting the music transport them beyond the confines of the subway. Others watched John intently, drawn to the expression of pure passion and dedication on his face. Children danced, couples swayed, and for the duration of the concert, the subway station was transformed into a sanctuary where all were welcome and all belonged. The impact of the music went beyond mere entertainment. It wove through the hearts of the audience, tightening the threads of community that John's regular performances had already begun to spin. People who had nodded in passing in the mornings found themselves talking and sharing stories. The concert not only celebrated John's journey, but also the unspoken bonds of the community that had silently supported him and each other through shared moments of music. As the final notes of the last song faded into a lingering echo, the applause that followed was not just for John's performance, but for the collective experience they had all shared. It was an acknowledgement of the power of music to transcend the daily grind, to heal, to connect, and to bring joy. The concert, though a single event, left a lasting impression on the community, strengthening the bonds among its members and deepening their appreciation for the unifying power of music. As the crowd began to disperse, the lingering sense of connection and upliftment promised that the effects of this evening would resonate in the days to come, setting the stage for continued gatherings and the nurturing of the community spirit that had been so vividly celebrated that night. In the days following the concert of gratitude, John continued his regular performances with renewed vigor, inspired by the strengthened bonds and the palpable warmth that lingered in the subway station. It was during one of these post-concert sessions, as the early autumn chill began to seep into the tunnels, adding a crisp edge to the air, that a moment of unexpected revelation unfolded, altering the course of John's life dramatically. As he played, the keyboard beneath his fingers, the same instrument that had accompanied him through countless hours of practice and performance, through moments of despair and bursts of joy, began to emit unusually resonant tones that seemed to vibrate with a deeper, almost mystical quality. The music drew an even larger crowd than usual, captivated by the hauntingly beautiful sounds that filled the underground space. Among the audience was a historian specializing in musical artifacts, who had come to hear John play after hearing about the subway station's transformation during the concert. As the historian listened, he recognized the distinctive timbre and style of the keyboard, suspecting that it might be a rare piece far more valuable than anyone realized. After the performance, he approached John, sharing his insights and suggesting that they examine the instrument more closely. Upon inspection, they discovered hidden markings and signatures that confirmed the historian's suspicions. John's keyboard was indeed a rare artifact, crafted by a renowned maker whose instruments were considered treasures in the musical world. This revelation was staggering to John, who had acquired the keyboard years ago from a small second-hand shop for a mere fraction of its worth, never suspecting its true value. But the story of the keyboard deepened even further. As they delved into the history of the instrument, they learned that it had once belonged to a famous composer who was known not only for his musical genius, but also for his philanthropy. Intriguingly, the historian revealed that the last known beneficiary of the composer's charitable foundation was none other than a young blind girl, Eleanor. This connection between Eleanor and the keyboard stunned John. Eleanor, more than just a loyal listener, was linked to his most cherished instrument through a thread of historical and spiritual significance that neither of them had been aware of. The keyboard was not merely an object of art, it was a vessel of fate, bringing them together in a convergence that seemed orchestrated by the very melodies it produced. As John processed these revelations, his perception of his music and his relationship with Eleanor transformed. What had started as a simple act of playing music in the subway had morphed into a journey interwoven with threads of destiny and purpose. The knowledge that Eleanor was connected to his keyboard's past added a profound layer of meaning to their daily interactions and to the music they shared, imbuing each note with a sense of legacy and continuity. The weight of this discovery resonated deeply with John, compelling him to reflect on the paths that had led them here and on the invisible forces that guide our lives. As he continued to play, his music took on new dimensions, enriched by the history of his instrument and by the personal connections that had grown around it. The revelation about the keyboard and Eleanor's connection to it marked a turning point in John's life, setting the stage for new possibilities and deeper explorations into the intersections of music, history, and personal destiny. As he looked forward to these new horizons, John felt a profound gratitude for the music that had saved him, and for the unexpected twists of fate that seemed to weave the most intricate and beautiful patterns in the tapestry of life. As autumn deepened its hold on New York, the city's palette shifted to the muted golds and reds of falling leaves, a visual echo of change and maturation. Similarly, the revelation about John's keyboard, a rare artifact intertwined with his constant companion Eleanor and her mysterious past, shaped the canvas of his life, coloring it with new, profound layers of meaning and destiny. This unexpected link to the keyboard's illustrious history began to alter John's understanding of his own musical journey. He delved into the histories of the instrument's creators, discovering that the keyboard was crafted by a legendary artisan whose works were celebrated for their exquisite craftsmanship and superior sound. This artisan, a pivotal figure in the world of music, had once said that his instruments were not merely tools for creating melodies, but vessels meant to carry forward the legacy of human emotion and connection through time. John spent long hours researching the life of the composer who had previously owned the keyboard. He learned of concerts in grand halls filled with opulent sounds, of compositions that had touched the hearts of many, and of a philanthropic legacy that aimed to make music accessible to all, including the disadvantaged and disabled. The connection to Eleanor, who had benefited from such philanthropy, made John feel as if the keyboard was destined to find its way to him, to be a bridge not only between past and present, but also between loss and healing. The more John understood about the keyboard's past, the more he saw his music in a different light. It wasn't just a means of livelihood or a mere artistic pursuit. It was a continuation of a historical narrative, a living piece of heritage that he had the honor to steward. His daily performances in the subway station, once a struggle for survival, now felt like acts of preservation and homage, a way to honor those who had shaped the keyboard's legacy and to contribute his own voice to its ongoing story. This new understanding imbued John with a sense of responsibility and pride. He began to see himself as a custodian of something much larger than himself, a participant in a long-standing tradition of musical excellence and emotional resonance. The subway station, with its transient crowds and echoing corridors, became a concert hall in its own right, where the past met the present in every note he played. John also started to plan public exhibitions and small documentaries about the keyboard, hoping to share its storied past and cultural significance with a broader audience. He envisioned interactive performances where he could explain the history of the keyboard between songs, allowing the audience to experience the music while appreciating the rich context behind it. As he prepared for these new projects, John's excitement was tempered with a deep reverence for the art and history he was helping to preserve. Each day brought new ideas and opportunities to expand his role as both a musician and a historian, deepening his connection to his craft and to the community that had supported him. With each performance, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. The music that flowed from the ancient keyboard was more than sound. It was a dialogue across centuries, a testament to the enduring power of art to convey the deepest human emotions. This profound realization set the stage for the next phase of his journey, promising to expand his impact and deepen his engagements with his growing audience, forging ahead into a future where his music and his newfound knowledge would continue to resonate and inspire. As the season shifted into the crisp embrace of early winter, so too did John's life transition into a phase marked by profound transformations and fresh starts. The decision to sell the historic keyboard, while emotionally taxing, was propelled by a recognition of its value beyond mere currency. It was a means to forge a new path not just for himself, but for those he touched with his music. The sale of the keyboard was a significant event, meticulously orchestrated to ensure the instrument would be housed where it could be appreciated and preserved for future generations. The auction attracted collectors and musicians from across the globe, drawn by the keyboard's rich musical and historical significance. When the final gavel fell, the sum it fetched was substantial, far exceeding John's expectations and resolving his financial burdens that had lingered like shadows over his life for years. With the newfound financial stability, John addressed his long-neglected health issues. The proceeds from the sale allowed him access to medical care that had previously been out of reach, treating conditions that had plagued him silently as he had devoted himself to his music in the subway stations of New York. His recovery was slow but steady, marked by a growing vitality and a rejuvenation of spirit that was evident in his performances. Emboldened by his improved health and financial freedom, John took a decisive step forward in his journey. He purchased a modest house in a quiet neighborhood of the city, a sanctuary where he could rest, create, and store his growing collection of musical instruments. This home became his haven, filled with the echoes of melodies past and the promise of compositions yet to be created. But John's vision extended beyond his personal needs. Inspired by the community that had supported him through his darkest times, he dreamed of giving back in a tangible way. Drawing on his experiences and the historical legacy of his cherished keyboard, he opened a small music shop in the heart of the community that had embraced him. This shop was not just a business, it was a cultural hub designed to foster the same sense of connection and musical appreciation that had transformed his life. The shop, aptly named Harmony's Haven, quickly became more than a place to buy instruments. It was a venue for aspiring musicians to meet, learn, and perform. John filled the space with a wide array of instruments, from vintage finds to modern marvels, each selected with care and knowledge only a lifelong musician could possess. He offered lessons, hosted small concerts, and created a scholarship program for talented but underprivileged young musicians, ensuring that his legacy would echo in the lives of others. As Harmony's Haven grew in popularity, it attracted not just local residents, but also tourists and serious musicians from across the city and beyond. The shop became synonymous with community, music, and healing, the very principles that had guided John's own recovery and growth. John's life, once confined to the shadows of subway tunnels, now expanded into broader, brighter avenues. His daily interactions in the shop, filled with chords and conversations, were a far cry from the solitary performances of his past. Each day brought new faces, new stories, and new opportunities to impact lives through music. As John prepared for the upcoming grand opening of the music shop, he reflected on the serendipitous journey that had led him to this moment. From the depths of despair to the pinnacle of community building, his life was a testament to the power of resilience and the enduring call of destiny. This phase of his life, marked by change and new beginnings, was not just a continuation of his story, but an expansion of his influence and a deepening of his commitment to the art form that had saved him. As autumn leaves danced to the ground, the doors of Harmony's Haven opened, revealing not just a store, but a repository of dreams and melodies. Nestled in the heart of a bustling neighborhood, the shop became a beacon for those who sought more than just musical instruments. They sought connection, inspiration, and a touch of the magic that John had come to embody. Upon entering the shop, visitors were greeted by an array of instruments, each meticulously arranged and lovingly displayed. But what made Harmony's Haven unique was not merely the quality or variety of its offerings, but the stories that John attached to each piece. Like the chords of a well-composed song, the stories of resilience, creativity, and transformation connected the instruments to their potential new owners in a deeply personal way. John, with his intuitive understanding of music's restorative powers, had transformed the shop into a living archive of musical heritage. Guitars from local artisans hung beside rare violins from distant lands, each accompanied by a narrative of its origin and the hands it had passed through. John would often share tales of the instruments' former owners, musicians who had overcome great adversities, much like himself, using the power of music to navigate their journeys. The shop also became a center for learning. John offered music lessons, believing firmly in the transformative power of education. He hired local musicians as instructors, each with their own unique stories and skills, further enriching the shop's community. These lessons went beyond teaching notes and chords. They were sessions of life lessons, imbued with the philosophy that music can heal, connect, and uplift. Beyond individual lessons, Harmony's Haven hosted weekly music circles, where people of all ages and skill levels could come together to play, listen, and learn from each other. These gatherings were vibrant, filled with laughter and the shared joy of making music. They reinforced the community spirit, drawing a diverse crowd that reflected the multicultural tapestry of the city itself. John's personal touch was evident in every aspect of the shop. He had created a small museum section in the corner, where he displayed vintage instruments and memorabilia from his own career, including the story of the historic keyboard that had started it all. This section became a favorite among visitors who appreciated the continuity from John's past experiences to the present community he nurtured. As Harmony's Haven grew in reputation, it became clear that John had successfully created more than just a business. He had fostered a thriving cultural hub. Musicians, collectors, and even tourists made it a point to visit, drawn by the stories and the atmosphere of genuine passion for music. John felt a deep satisfaction in witnessing the impact of his endeavors. The shop was not just a place of commerce, but a home for the soulful exploration of music and humanity. He watched as young learners came in shy and uncertain, only to leave with confidence and a sense of belonging. He saw seasoned musicians rediscover their passion for music through teaching and sharing. As he prepared for the next phase of the shop's journey, expanding into online platforms to share the magic of Harmony's Haven with a wider audience, John reflected on the serendipitous paths that had led to this point. Each instrument sold, each lesson taught, and each story shared contributed to a larger narrative of healing and community, echoing the transformative journey that music had charted in his own life. As the leaves turned and the city embraced the crisp beginnings of another fall, the echoes of music and laughter often spilled from the open doors of Harmony's Haven onto the bustling streets. Inside, amidst the hum of strings and the harmonious clatter of keys, John ensured that the spirit of gratitude infused every corner of his shop. He had not journeyed alone to this point of fulfillment and success. Pivotal to his narrative were Eleanor and Max, whose influences were profound and lasting. John was deeply aware that his renaissance could not have unfolded as it had without the foundational support and unique connections he shared with Eleanor and Max. Eleanor, with her serene appreciation for the melodies that once filled the subway tunnels, and Max, whose silent guidance had been a beacon of trust and perseverance, had not only been his audience, but his inspiration. Their presence had transformed his music, infusing it with a depth and sincerity that resonated well beyond the underground confines of their first meetings. In recognition of their roles in his life and success, John made a heartfelt commitment to keep them closely involved in his new endeavors. Whenever Harmony's Haven hosted an event, whether it was a community gathering, an instrument unveiling, or a celebratory concert, John personally ensured that Eleanor and Max were not just attendees, but honored guests. He designed special invites for them, often accompanied by a small note of appreciation, hand-delivered by him during one of their regular meetups for coffee or a casual stroll in the nearby park. Eleanor, ever graceful and soft-spoken, delighted in the vibrant community atmosphere of the shop. Her face, always turned towards the source of music, would light up with a radiant smile as she absorbed the intricate layers of sound, her hands often gently tapping to the rhythm. Max, now older and just as observant, would watch the musicians with a keen eye, his understanding and love for music growing with each visit. Their feedback, though communicated in their unique ways, Eleanor's through poignant pauses and reflective nods, and Max's through expressive gestures and animated facial expressions, became valuable insights that John often used to enhance the shop's offerings. John also made it a point to share the story of how Eleanor and Max had impacted his life during these events. With a humble demeanor, he would recount tales of their early days in the subway, of struggles turned into symphonies, and of chance encounters that evolved into enduring friendships. These stories, rich with emotion and sincerity, not only highlighted their contributions, but also served to remind the community of the unpredictable yet beautiful trajectories of human connections. Their frequent presence at Harmony's Haven not only enriched their lives, but also deeply touched the hearts of other patrons. The regulars at the shop came to know and respect Eleanor and Max, often engaging with them directly, sharing music tips, or simply exchanging stories. This mutual exchange further knitted the fabric of the community, turning the shop into a living tapestry of shared histories and collaborative futures. As John prepared for another significant event at the shop, an upcoming anniversary celebration, he reflected on the growth and success that Harmony's Haven had achieved. With Eleanor and Max by his side, the celebration was not just a marker of business success, but a profound acknowledgement of the journey they had shared. a journey marked by the transformative power of music and the enduring strength of gratitude. As the preparations for the event unfolded, the anticipation built not just for a celebration of the shop, but for a renewed affirmation of the ties that bound them together in this symphony of life. As the year wound down, the chill of winter began to blanket the city, yet inside Harmony's Haven, the warmth of community and music continued to thrive. John's life, markedly transformed from the days when he played alone in the subway corridors, now revolved around his flourishing music shop and the vibrant community that had grown around it. Despite the sweeping changes, financial stability, a fixed address, and a reputable business, John's core, his essence, remained tethered to the simple but profound joys of music and human connection. On crisp mornings, with the city still quiet and the streets glistening with dew, John would take his keyboard to various corners of the city. Setting up on familiar sidewalks or in new neighborhoods, he tapped into the spontaneity that had first kindled his love for street performances. These impromptu sessions were not just a nod to his roots, but a deliberate choice to keep those roots alive and intertwined with his current life. John's return to street playing was a spectacle of nostalgia mixed with innovation. Passers-by, drawn by the melodic strains floating through the air, would often stop and listen, finding solace in the unexpected encounter with music. For John, these moments were a poignant reminder of his journey, how each note played in the open air echoed the countless notes that had resonated through the subway tunnels, reaching ears that needed lifting, spirits that needed soothing. While his life now included responsibilities like managing the shop and organizing community events, John ensured these street sessions remained sacred. They served as a bridge connecting his past and present, allowing him to engage with the city and its inhabitants in the most direct and intimate way. Whether it was a bustling market area or a quiet side street, John's music invited onlookers to pause their hurried lives and share in a universal experience. During these performances, John would often experiment with new melodies and compositions, using the city as his muse. The sounds of the urban environment, a distant siren, the rhythmic patter of running feet, the soft cooing of city pigeons, wove their way into his music, creating a tapestry that was both vibrant and deeply reflective of urban life. The simplicity of these musical interactions in the streets kept John grounded. They reminded him that despite owning a successful business and having a stable home, the essence of his impact lay in these raw, unfiltered moments of connection through music. These sessions reinforced his belief in the power of music to bridge divides, to heal, and to bring people together in profound and unexpected ways. As John packed up his keyboard after one such session, the smiles and nods from those who'd stopped to listen filled him with a sense of accomplishment and belonging. He knew that maintaining this balance of business and spontaneous creativity was essential, not just for his artistic soul, but also for those who found unexpected joy in his music. With his legacy now expanding through both his shop and his street performances, John felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was not just a musician or a shop owner. He was a facilitator of community, a bearer of tradition, and a conduit for the transformative power of music. As he headed back to Harmony's Haven to prepare for the next day's lessons and meetings, he carried with him the fresh inspiration from the streets, ready to weave these new threads into the continuing tapestry of his musical journey. As winter receded and the first signs of spring began to sprout in the city, the life of John Miller, once defined by solitary struggles and survival, now harmonized with the vibrant chorus of the community he had helped cultivate. The transformation from a street musician to a respected figure in the musical landscape of the city was not just a personal victory, but a beacon of hope for many who had seen their own reflections in his hardships. John stood in the warmth of his music shop, Harmony's Haven, surrounded by instruments that each told a story of resilience, creativity, and the universal search for expression. These instruments, much like the individuals who frequented his shop, were witnesses to the symphony of human experience. Each string, key, and pedal holding the potential to unlock deep-seated emotions and aspirations. As he arranged a display of new string instruments that had just arrived, John reflected on the profound journey that had brought him to this point. Each instrument he placed on the shelf was a testament to the journey, not just his own, but also that of the community that supported him. He saw the shop not merely as a business, but as a sanctuary where people could come to find their voice through music, just as he had found his amidst the echoes of subway tunnels. John's understanding of music had evolved. It was no longer just a means to earn a living, but a powerful medium to connect souls and weave together diverse narratives. His daily interactions, whether teaching a young child the basics of piano, helping a teenager choose their first guitar, or sharing insights with a fellow musician, were all imbued with a sense of purpose. He knew that every note played in his shop carried with it the potential to inspire, heal, and transform. Beyond the walls of Harmony's Haven, John's influence continued to ripple through the community. He initiated outreach programs that brought music to those who couldn't afford instruments, organized concerts that showcased local talents, and collaborated with schools to ensure music education was accessible to all. His life had become a continuous cycle of giving and receiving, a harmonious exchange that enriched not just his own life, but also those around him. As he closed the shop one evening, the last light of day casting long shadows through the large front windows, John took a moment to enjoy the quiet after the day's bustling activities. He thought about the young musicians who had left the shop with their new instruments, the smiles on their faces, and the hopeful sparkle in their eyes. These moments were reminders of why he had started this journey and why he continued to push forward. John Miller, once a solitary figure with his keyboard in the subway, had become a cornerstone of a thriving musical ecosystem. His story was a symphony composed of countless smaller notes, each significant, each vibrant. As he locked the door and stepped out into the soft evening, he felt a profound connection to the city that had been his greatest challenge and his greatest muse. His journey had taught him that harmony was not just a concept in music, but a real, attainable state in life where adversity meets hope, struggle meets support, and individual notes come together to create something truly beautiful. As John walked home, the sounds of the city around him seemed to play a familiar melody, one of resilience, community, and the endless possibilities that lay in every note waiting to be discovered.
So, if you're not subscribed yet, click on the subscribe button below and join our community. Thank you for your support and see you in the next videos.